My friends, today I want to talk to you about something that can change the course of your life. Starting your day with God. When the sun rises and a new day begins, you and I are given a fresh opportunity, a brand new page in the book of life. And the question is, how will you fill it? Will you begin with worry, with fear, with the burdens of yesterday? Or will you begin with faith, with prayer, with the power of Almighty God guiding your step? Every morning as the sun rises and the world awakens, we are given a brand new opportunity. The past is behind us, and a fresh start is before us. No matter what happened yesterday, no matter the mistakes we made, the burdens we carried, or the regrets we held on to, God's mercies are new every morning. His love is unfailing, His grace is unending, and His compassion never runs dry. The Bible reminds us in Lamentations 3:22 to 23, because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. These words were written during a time of great suffering and sorrow, yet they proclaim a powerful truth. God's mercy is constant, unwavering, and ever renewing. No matter how dark the night may have been, the dawn brings the promise of His faithfulness once again. So many people wake up burdened by the weight of yesterday. They wake up with guilt from past sins, with anxiety over what the day might bring, or with sorrow over things they cannot change. But the beauty of God's mercy is that it meets us where we are, offering us a clean slate every single morning. He does not hold our past against us when we come to Him with a repentant heart. He does not remind us of our failures or count our mistakes against us. Instead, He extends His loving kindness, inviting us to step forward in His grace. We often struggle to accept this kind of mercy because the world doesn't work this way. People hold grudges. Society remembers failures. The enemy whispers that we are unworthy, that we've messed up too many times, that there is no coming back from what we've done. But God is different. His mercy is not based on our performance. It is not something we earn. It is a gift that He freely gives because of His great love for us. There are mornings when we wake up and feel unworthy of His mercy. We might believe that we have strayed too far, that we have disappointed Him too greatly, but God's mercy is not dependent on how we feel. It is rooted in His character, and He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He has promised that His compassions never fail, and He does not break His promises. No matter how lost we may feel, His mercy is always waiting to bring us back. This truth should change the way we start our day. Instead of waking up with regret, we should wake up with gratitude. Instead of letting past failures define us, we should let God's mercy renew us. Each morning is a fresh opportunity to seek Him, to trust Him, to walk in the grace He so freely provides. His mercies are not limited, not rationed, not given only to a select few. They are available to all who turn to Him, ready to restore, to heal, and to strengthen. When we embrace the reality of His mercy, we begin to live differently. We are no longer trapped by shame or fear. We no longer carry the weight of our past because we know that God's grace is greater. His mercy empowers us to move forward in faith, knowing that His love is unchanging. It gives us the courage to try again, to love deeper, to forgive more freely because we have been forgiven much. God's mercy is also an invitation. It is not just a comforting thought, but a call to draw closer to Him. Each morning He invites us to come before Him, to leave behind the baggage of yesterday and to step into His presence with confidence. He wants to renew our minds, to restore our spirits, to fill us with His peace. But we must choose to receive it. We must choose to start our day with Him, to open our hearts to His Word, to seek His face in prayer. No matter what happened yesterday, today is a new day. His mercy is fresh, His love is constant, and His faithfulness is unshaken. We don't have to carry the burdens of the past, because He's already made a way for us to walk in freedom. When we wake up each morning, we have a choice to dwell on what has been or to embrace what God is doing now. His mercies are new every morning, and that means today is filled with His grace, His goodness, and His unending love. Each morning when we wake up, we are faced with a choice. What will be the first thing that captures our attention? Will we begin our day with the noise of the world, or will we begin it with the voice of God? The way we start our day sets the tone for everything that follows. It determines our focus, our mindset, and our ability to handle the challenges ahead. Yet so often, before we even take a deep breath, before we even thank God for another day, we reach for distraction. In today's world, distractions are everywhere. The moment we wake up, there are emails to check, messages to read, news updates to scroll through, and responsibilities demanding our attention. Our minds are quickly flooded with information, opinions, and worries. The world calls for our focus, but God calls for our hearts. The question is, who will we listen to first? Jesus understood the importance of beginning the day with God. In Mark 1:35, we see a glimpse into his daily routine. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Jesus, the Son of God, made it a priority to seek the Father before anything else. He did not allow the demands of the day to come before time with God. He knew that true strength, true wisdom, and true peace come from the presence of the Father. If Jesus needed to start his day this way, how much more do we? When we start our mornings with distractions, we fill our minds with the cares of the world before we even invite God into our day. We allow stress to take root before we've received his peace. We allow the noise of life to drown out the still, small voice of God. The enemy loves to use distractions because he knows that if he can get our attention early, he can shape our thoughts, steal our joy, and weaken our faith before the day even begins. But we have a choice. We can turn away from the distractions and turn our eyes toward God. To seek God first means to give him our first moments. It means making time to pray before we check our phones. It means opening the Bible before opening social media. It means setting our hearts on his truth before the world tries to shape our thoughts. When we do this, we invite his presence to guide us, his wisdom to fill us, and his peace to strengthen us. Many people say they don't have time to pray or read the Bible in the morning, but the truth is, we make time for what matters to us. If something is important, we find a way to prioritize it. The same should be true for our relationship with God. The first few minutes of the morning can determine the entire direction of our day. When we give those moments to God, we set ourselves on the right path. The Bible tells us in Matthew 6:33, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." When we put God first, everything else falls into place. That does mean we won't have challenges, but it does mean we will have his strength to face them. It doesn't mean life will be easy, but it does mean we will have his wisdom to navigate it. Seeking God first is not about following a religious routine. It's about aligning our hearts with his will. Some mornings will be harder than others. There will be days when we feel rushed, when our schedules are overwhelming, when the distractions feel too strong. But those are the moments when seeking God first matters most. On the busiest days, we need his peace. On the most stressful days, we need his wisdom. On the most uncertain days, we need his guidance. And when we choose to seek him first, we remind ourselves that he is in control, not the distractions around us. The enemy wants nothing more than to keep us so distracted that we forget to seek God. He wants us to be so consumed with life's busyness that we neglect the very source of life itself. But when we choose to turn away from distractions and seek God first, we silence the enemy's lies and open our hearts to God's truth. We begin our day with strength, with purpose, and with the assurance that no matter what comes our way, we are walking with him. Each morning is a gift. Each new day is an opportunity to put God first. The choice is ours. Will we start with distractions, or will we start with the one who holds our day in his hands? Jesus lived a life of perfect obedience to the Father, setting an example for us in every way. He showed us how to love, how to serve, how to trust, and how to pray. If we want to walk in the fullness of God's purpose for our lives, we must look to Jesus and follow his example. One of the most powerful lessons we learn from him is the importance of seeking the Father first. The Bible tells us in Mark 1:35, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. This verse reveals something deeply significant about the Son of God. Even though he was fully divine, even though he had all power and authority, he still made time to be alone with the Father. Before he began teaching, before he healed the sick, before he faced the demands of the day, Jesus sought communion with God. In his time on earth, Jesus was constantly surrounded by people. Crowds followed him everywhere, pressing in, seeking miracles, longing for words of hope. The disciples depended on him for guidance. Religious leaders challenged him at every turn, and the needs of the people never ceased. Yet in the midst of all this, Jesus prioritized time with the Father. He understood that his strength came from God, and if he, the Son of God, needed to pray and seek the Father, how much more do we? Many people live life overwhelmed, feeling drained, burdened, and without direction. They move from one obligation to the next, constantly pouring out but never being refilled. Jesus did not live this way. Though he carried the weight of the world, he never let the demands of life keep him from time with the Father. He withdrew to quiet places, not because he was avoiding his mission, but because he knew that his power came from intimate fellowship with God. When we follow his example, we begin to understand that true strength does not come from striving, but from surrendering. Jesus also showed us the importance of prayer before making decisions. In Luke 6:12, 13-13, we read, one of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples to him and chose 12 of them, whom he also designated apostles. Before selecting the 12 who would carry his message to the world, Jesus spent the entire night in prayer. He did not rush into decisions based on human reasoning. He sought the Father's guidance and acted according to his will. So often, people make choices without first seeking God. They rely on their own understanding, only turning to prayer when things go wrong. But Jesus teaches us to pray first, to seek the Father before making decisions. Whether it is a career move, a relationship, a major life change, or a daily challenge, we are to follow Jesus' example and bring it before God in prayer. Jesus also demonstrated unwavering obedience. He did only what the Father commanded him to do. In John 5:19, he says, very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. His entire life was lived in complete submission to the will of God. Even in the most difficult moments, Jesus remained faithful. Nowhere is this clearer than in the Garden of Gethsemane. On the night before his crucifixion, knowing the suffering that awaited him, Jesus fell to the ground and prayed, Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will but yours be done. Though he was in anguish, he surrendered fully to the Father's plan. His example teaches us that obedience is not always easy, but it is always right. Even when we face trials, even when the path is difficult, we are called to trust God and submit to his will. Following Jesus' example also means loving as he loved. He was patient with sinners, compassionate to the broken, and forgiving even to those who wronged him. He touched the untouchable, welcomed the outcast, and showed kindness to those who did not deserve it. His love was not based on what people could offer him. It was an outpouring of God's heart. If we truly want to follow him, we must love as he loved. unconditionally, sacrificially, and without reservation. The life of Jesus was marked by prayer, obedience, and love. He did not live for himself, but for the glory of God. He showed us how to walk in faith, how to trust in the Father, and how to live with purpose. Each day we are given the opportunity to follow his example, to seek the Father first, to pray before making decisions, to obey even when it is difficult, and to love as he loved. When we do, we step into the fullness of the life God has called us to live.